Transcripts and recordings of the podcast may not be used for any purpose without the direct written permission of the podcast owner. Welcome to Light It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah M. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Light It Up. I am your host, Dr. Aginah M. I'm so excited about this week's episode because I have a very special guest. We go back probably about 20 years, I think, maybe 20 years plus. But I have Dr. Greg Jones, who is a licensed naturopathic medical doctor based out of Phoenix, Arizona. And we are going to talk about his practice and services that he offers to individuals who are interested in naturopathic medicine. Welcome to Light It Up, Dr. Jones. How are you?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me. And we do go back way back in the day to the year of 1996. It's been 26 years, if you can believe that. So, and just it's funny because I remember getting to campus. This is at UIC, University of Illinois, Chicago, and I get to school, and I'm we'll talk about background, but I was military, I was Navy, I'm going to college, I'm new on campus, and you figure, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to major in? You don't know anyone, and it's like, oh, they've got this Black Student Union. Sounds good to me. And I go to my first meeting, and this little lady at the front running the meeting, just bossing everybody around, and I'm like, man, this lady she is small but mighty. And just a ball of energy. And I came up, introduced myself, and next thing you know, I think next thing I knew, I was vice president. I was wait a minute, I just got here. I don't even know what the cafeteria is. You're talking about be vice presidents. And ever since then, we've just been good friends, and I've been amazed with your journey and the things you've accomplished. And it is just a blessing to be here today. So thanks for having me.
And thank you for bringing that up because I can't believe it's been 26 years. See, I was trying to say just a little over 20, but
man, look, you look back, I'm like, there are people that weren't even born. They have been born, went to college, had kids and careers in that 26 years, and the world has changed. The world has changed so much. So I'm grateful to, still be connected to you. So again, it's awesome to me. So.
And it's also, I think, it's always good to be able to connect with people that you have history with, see that they're doing well. And of course, as you mentioned, we go back to University of Illinois, Chicago. I am back there, as you know, the last 10 years. Can't believe that I'm working for the institution that we attended, but you are a native of Chicago. Your family is from Chicago, right?
They're still there. They're still there. My family is, if you draw a straight line from Mississippi to Wisconsin, you will meet 95% of my family because they are split between those three cities. But I was actually born in Mississippi. So I know no one hardly knows that. It's a breaking news right there. And spent the first 4 years of my life there. And my mother was like, yeah, you know what? You're not growing up here. Because my family love them, and I will always love them, but we're the country. They're in the woods, man. It used to be a dirt road. When I grew up, it was dirt road. Now they got this pavement. And it's like, and it's just, unfortunately, there is a disparity between the educational systems in the South and the Midwest. And, I think she just felt there was a better opportunity for me and her, and we moved to Chicago. And so, when you go there from 4 years old, that's where you're from.
Right.
So I did go to high school there, and I did leave for the military and come back and go to UIC, and I still call Chicago my home, and I'm still a fan of all the teams, which is heartbreaking. But hey, Chicago is where I call home, and I try to come home once or twice a year. And somehow, though, I always end up back in the winter. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. So I am putting my foot down and saying that, you know what, I will be there for the summer and the spring holidays. And if you all want to see me, let's make a trip. Come on out
All
here.
right. Well,
Currently set.
I need to be where you are in the winter, not here in Chicago. So we'll have to make sure we make that a date
Mhm.
when you come to Chicago during the
Please,
summertime.
please do. But at the end of the day, like with the here's the deal, it's super hot here, but you come to Chicago and it's super humid, right? So
Right.
that's why I say spring and the fall
Okay.
should be the things. And again, like we talked about before we hopped on, culturally though, there's nothing compared to Chicago. There's nothing, that
Mhm.
history there, especially in the African American world. The culture
Mhm.
is history there.
So why don't we kind of start there? You grew up in Chicago. You went. You're a Navy man, right? And then you came back to complete your undergrad degree at UIC. I do remember when we were in school, though, there was this conversation, this journey, if I'm not mistaken, about you going into the medical field, but I don't know exactly what route you took, or so can you kind of talk to us about that and how you ended up? um
Yeah, of course, of course. So when I went back to school, I was in I don't, I always knew something medical. I've always been drawn
Mhm,
to it. I just didn't know exactly what that would be. So when I started at UIC, they had a pharmacy program. They had a bachelor's degree in pharmacy the first year I was there, and I was like, okay, that sounds fascinating to me. And so
mhm.
I started, and right after my first semester, I get this letter. This is back when they had to mail you everything, right? There's no
Yes.
emails weren't a thing. You get a letter. We regret to inform you that we are no longer offering the bachelor's degree in pharmacy. It is a doctorate program now. And
Mhm.
so you're more than welcome to choose another major, but this ain't it. And
Wow.
so they sent the list, and I went to the list, and I was like, hey, what is this biomedical engineering? Because again, I didn't want to start over. So I wanted
Right.
something where that first semester of credits would transfer over. And I chose BioE, and that was my path into biomedical engineering. Now, here's the funniest thing.
Mhm.
I remember I was in a course. I want to say it was one of the good thing about bioengineering, you tend to take a good broad spectrum of engineering courses. And I'm in a Chem E course, I believe.
Mhm.
And I'm doing well in the class. And one day after class, the professor comes up to me and he's like, hey, um, have you ever thought about going to medical school? And I'm like, what? He's like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's like, I don't know, man. He's just like, I think you should think about going to medical school. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was offended. I'm like, I'm in your class for
Yeah.
engineering. Why are you trying to tell me to change paths?
Mhm.
So it's possible that he saw something, and I don't know what he saw, but that was the first kind of spark I got for that.
Okay.
And so to me, I don't remember the guy's name. I couldn't tell you what he looks like, but I will never forget that conversation, because I was like, wait a minute here, and now we fast forward to my last year of school, and we're doing, a lot of these were your lab courses, and
Mhm.
our lab for bioengineering was in the same lab as the UIC Medical School on the west side of campus.
Okay.
And I remember walking past the cadaver lab, and it just so happens that the door was open, and I see them in there working on the cadavers. I
Mhm.
looked in there, and I was like, no. There goes that.
That
I
was
will
it.
not be doing that. I will not be cutting on these dead bodies. I won't be looking at them. I am offended that this is so close to my class. And yeah, man, we can talk a little bit more about the journey, how I got there. But to answer
Mhm.
your question, it was pharmacy to biomedical engineering, and then eventually found my way to med school.
At what point? So you finished when did you finish your degree at UIC?
Woo, 2000.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did I say wait,
You
2000,
said
right?
2000. Yeah.
2000, yeah, 2000, yeah,
Mhm.
96 to 2000.
Okay.
You live long enough,
Yeah.
Doc, and the years they start running together.
And so you earned your degree in biomedical, no, biomedical
Right,
engineering,
that
right?
was my bachelor.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
was your
my
bachelor's
BS.
degree.
Yes,
And
indeed.
then you do what?
So then I go back to the Navy. Well,
Oh.
then I went to. I was trying to stay, and I actually got into I was accepted to the doctorate program in biomedical engineering, and I was trying to get the Navy to say, hey, I would probably serve you better, be a better asset to you all if I get this doctorate and develop things. And I remember I put this package in and I had these proposals, these theses, I can do this, this, and that with this degree. And they were like, yeah, no, we need you back. We need you back on active duty. And, at that time in the life, I didn't have the choice. And so I went back and finished my career off in the Navy and retired eventually.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't think that I knew that. So after
No.
retirement, then this was your opportunity to proceed with going to medical school, or is there something that
Oh man, look, I have a twisted tale. So I go back to the Navy and do my time, so to speak, and then I retire. And then I'm like, okay, I'm about to get out. What are we gonna do?
Mhm.
And so I gotta get a job, right? It's
Right.
time to get a job. And but I also knew that ultimately I wanted to get back into pharmacy. It was always the thing. I always had my mind set on that long term.
Mhm.
And so I'm looking for jobs, and then I just happen to find, I'm like looking for jobs, but alternatively at the same time, I'm looking for pharmacy schools.
Okay.
And so there's a pharmacy school out here in Arizona, in Phoenix, and they had a 3-year PharmD program. And I'm like, okay, that's great. I've been in school long enough in my life. I want to get in, get out. But also while I'm finishing off my prereqs, because again, my path changed, I can
Mhm.
work and also go to school and prepare for pharmacy school. And so I get here and take my job, and I'm doing an engineering job,
Mhm.
and I'm taking classes at night and on the weekends and online classes. And then I started really connecting with the pharmacy schools. I go to the meetings with the class, with the advisors, admissions advisors and all that. And I started actually talking to pharmacists, and I was like, wait a minute, this isn't really what I want. It's not what I thought pharmacy was. Now, in my kind of naive state,
Mhm.
I'm thinking of pharmacists as like, hey, you have a complex case, the doctor being, and they say, hey, here's some treatment options. And then there's like a team effort. It's like the pharmacist, the doctor, the patient. That's not how it works.
Mhm.
Especially not in commercial pharmacy and your Walgreens, CVS, these are the pharmacists that I'm connecting with. They're more like, hey, yes, is to make sure the prescriptions get filled right, make sure that the patient knows about the side effects, contraindications, obviously like contraindications, meaning like, hey, you can't take this because of that.
Mhm.
And you explain that, right? And how to take the medications and all that good stuff. But it wasn't so much a um, integration with the case of the patient. That's what I wanted to be.
Mhm.
Turns out that is a field of pharmacy that's more in the compound pharmacy world. That's a whole other path. And so now I'm disillusioned. I'm like, oh my God, I moved to Phoenix. It's hot as hell out here. I don't want to be a pharmacist anymore. What am I gonna do? Right. And
Right.
I got a little bit down. And if I'm talking too much, always cut me off. Now let's talk
No, you're
about how
good.
I got here with UIC. So now I'm out
Okay.
here. I don't know what I'm doing. I finished my classes off. I'm like, ugh. And one of my friends from UIC in the engineering department, she's like, hey, I heard you're in Phoenix. I'm like, yep.
Mhm.
And she's like, my
Mhm.
sister is graduating from medical school out there. We should hang out. I'm like, sure, let's hang out.
Mhm.
So she comes out and I meet her sister, and we go, it's the weekend before she graduates, and I meet them, and we're at a dinner, and with one of her classmates, and they're talking about this whole naturopathic this naturopathic medical thing and the things they've did. And I'm like, fascinating. What is this naturopathic medicine you speak of? I've never heard of this, right?
Mhm.
And so I hang out, and they seem pretty cool. And then I go to the graduation a couple days later, and it blew my mind because they're on stage talking about natural healing and the body healing itself, and how the body can, how we have the ability to be healthy and well. And it's just, how do we guide people to that? And how do we change medicine and change the world? And I'm like, oh, I'm in the audience with the brochure, and I'm like, I'm doing this. I am doing
Okay.
this. And literally the following Monday, I
Mhm.
called the school, and I was like, I need to meet y'all. What is up with this? How do we do this? And that was in December of 2013.
Okay.
By the end of that year, I had did my applications and got interviewed, and I started school the following April.
Wow.
Yeah, man. So I was all in. I was
Oh,
all in, and that changed my life, right? So there's the UIC connection. If I
right.
wouldn't have known
Yeah.
her, I
Yeah.
may not have found my path.
Wow. Isn't that something? Oh my goodness.
Mhm.
So what was it about I guess naturopathic medicine that kind of drew you in? Was it this the notion of the body being able to heal itself that was the connection for you, or was there something else?
Well, this is where the story gets personal a little bit. So
Mhm.
what drew me in initially when I got out of the Navy into pharmacy is because my mother died of cancer while I was in the military.
Okay.
And throughout the process of her going through chemotherapy and radiation therapy and all these different things and the drugs and all that,
Mm.
it just seemed like there was no other option, of okay. And we would sit down and talk, and it was never, she never talked to me about, hey, they said I should eat something different or
Right.
change my diet, or maybe here's something natural. There was never another path. The path was like, here are your medications, here's your chemotherapy, and we go from there.
Mhm.
And even in her last days, it's helpless. It's helpless, man, when someone that you love is losing their life, and you feel like you can't do anything about it, and the system doesn't have any options. And so I wanted to get into the medical field, not just because it's something that was in me from a younger age, because now I had purpose. It's like,
Right.
look, I can't save my mother, but
Mhm.
what can I do to help save someone else's?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so when I'm in that audience and they're talking about naturopathic medicine and alternative medicine, and here's some different options, and they're telling these stories about people healing, that was it for me.
Okay.
Where it's like, hey, how do I become part of the solution? How do I make a difference? And that's how the journey really started. So that was even more motivation besides just, hey, something naturally in me wanted to do it.
Wow. Okay. That is a very compelling story because, oftentimes, well, I shouldn't say oftentimes, but I'm always curious to know why people enter into certain types of fields, right? If
Mhm.
it's something that's personal, um, from my perspective, I feel like there's going to be this level of empathy and compassion. And then, of course, this feeling of purpose for what they're doing, and especially with you um, working with, you know, patients who are trying to heal. And so, um, thank you for sharing that.
No, no
You know,
problem. No
I
problem. It's part of the
appreciate
journey.
that. Yeah.
Part of the journey, part of the journey.
So fast track, you go through this uh, program and you earn your degree. How long did it take you to complete your degree?
It's a 4-year program.
4-year program. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it's pretty rigorous. And
Mhm.
you are now you have your practice. Did you open your practice immediately, or did you work um, with another doctor? How did you let's
Yeah. So I got out of school, you graduate, you do your 4 years, and it is rigorous, man. Like um, it's funny how I used to think undergrad was so hard. Look, I'm not knocking undergrad. I know it's hard. It wasn't easy when we did it,
yeah.
but medical school, it was 120 credit hours a year. So it's like a
Mhm.
year of the amount of credits you take in undergrad. It's like 4 years of undergrad. That's how many credits you take. I mean, I remember this one quarter. I think it was somewhere between 11 and 13 finals in one quarter. You're like, oh man, they put it on. They put it on you. That's all I'm gonna say about that. They put it on you. And so I get out, and with naturopathic medicine, because it's not mainstream medicine,
Mhm.
there are residency opportunities, but they're not that many.
Mhm.
And so I knew the things that there were residencies for. I wanted to choose a different path. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get out. I'm going to make my own way. I'm going to do this. And so this is going to show my age here. Remember that skit back on Living Color, the Jamaicans on the airline? It's like, so
Yes.
that was me. I had so many jobs. I had so many jobs, man. I was working with a doctor. I was working in a chiropractor's office a couple of days a week. I was working in the back of this gym trying to get some stuff going. I was doing medicinal marijuana cards. I was going to like just all these open houses, man. I hustled. I
Mhm.
was everywhere, and because I wanted to find what I really liked, and I wanted to be able to get used to talking to people, and I knew I wanted to make my own way. So I started off, man, I was everywhere. I was everywhere, but I wanted to get that credibility. I wanted to get experience talking to people, and I knew the goal was to have my own practice. So the beginning, that first year out of school, you talking about thinking you made a mistake, man. I didn't make any money. I was so broke. I was so broke. I was like, man, I'm a doctor. I'm sitting here struggling. Like, this is wrong. This is wrong. But you know what? That year molded me, and I'm grateful and I'm thankful I did it because it gave me a foundation for what I do now.
Okay. For someone who doesn't know or isn't familiar, because so many of us are just focused on Western medicine. And when you have an ailment, you're going to be prescribed certain, medication. And I know for myself, I pride myself in, or I'm happy, I should say, that I have not been prescribed any medication. Now, I have been prescribed vitamin D. That just means I probably need to move so I can get some natural vitamin D since I'm vitamin D deficient. But for those who aren't familiar with naturopathic medicine, could you give us a little bit more of an explanation in terms of how it works and what's your approach to naturopathic medicine?
Great. It's the question I get all the time
Mm-hmm.
because you realize outside of certain states where it's very prevalent, we always have to answer that question. But to me, when people ask me that, my answer, naturopathic medicine is what medicine is supposed to be.
Okay.
Now, to be more specific, it is using the healing power of nature to stimulate the body's ability to heal. Now, that's the standard medical school answer.
Okay.
Now, to me, when I define that further, it's just saying that, we use naturopathic medicine as a way of using what your body can use on its own. So this is your diet, your lifestyle, using supplementation, using botanical medicine, using what we call Chinese medicine. So you can use physical medicine, more things of this is where the kind of more in the chiropractic world. It is using all of these regenerative things. Like really what you're trying to do is say, hey, this body of ours has the ability to heal. It has the ability to regenerate. Our job as a naturopathic physician is to find out what's the barrier. Why are you not healing? Why are you okay? You can't stop getting a cold or the
Right.
flu because but why do you keep getting them? And why are you not getting over this cold? And it's like, okay, you're having gut issues, you're having GI issues. Okay, maybe you're having diarrhea and bloating and abdominal pain, not because you need a medication. Maybe you need to change what you're eating,
Right.
or it's like, hey, I'm in pain. And I definitely hope we spend some time touching on inflammation because that is something I would love to address with your listeners here. It's like you're in pain, you have brain fog, you're getting acne and rashes, your hair is falling out, you're tired. It's because you are a raging fire of inflammation, right? And so maybe you don't need a steroid medication. Maybe we need to make some changes. Maybe we need to lower your stress, maybe work on your sleep. Maybe we look at what's on this earth, like turmeric and ginger and peppermint, and I can go on and oil and fish oil and all these things that lower inflammation, right? But here's the deal. The key is, this I always talk about with naturopathic medicine and some of the students that come talk to me. The key is that, yes, we can use naturopathic medication, but the key is to make someone not dependent. Because if I say you have inflammation, I'm going to give you this supplement or this treatment, but you don't make the changes, you're stuck on that just like you would have been stuck on the medication. Less harmful, but you're still stuck on it, right? And so we need to figure out how to change things to make you heal on your own. So it's a very long-winded answer, but eventually at the end of the day, to me, naturopathic medicine is using what the body has internally, our body's natural abilities to heal, that life force that we all have, and using nature and the things that are out there to help us heal. Now, I will say that, personally, there are times we do use things that are pharmaceuticals, right? Because you kind of have to, because if you come into the office and you have strep throat, it's like, you got strep. It's like, look, there's a lot of natural things we do to support, but I don't need that strep turning into a heart condition.
Right.
Because we're trying to plant you away from a condition that can harm you, right? So sometimes we do need to use traditional medication, but the goal is to get you off of it. And also while you're doing that, use natural things to support. So I'm a little bit less traditional than some of my counterparts and some of the things I do.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it's really about using these things to do the same thing, to get the body to heal itself and to move forward.
So as you were talking, I was thinking about a couple of things because I have been under the care of a chiropractor for the last year. And I'll share something else. I've shared this with my listeners, actually. I've changed my diet
Good.
because as you were talking about, inflammation and pain, and then uh, just how honestly your body can attack itself when you're under stress. And I carry a huge amount of stress, to be perfectly honest, but I, had a period of time where I was very exhausted, just always tired, legs felt really, really heavy or what have you. And I realized I needed to do something different. I mean, because oftentimes, and it's not addressed as it should, um, the food that we eat is killing us, and you'll hear people say, I don't eat pork, never have, eaten pork. And it's interesting, I'll hear, people say, well, I've eaten pork all my life, or Big Mama and them ate pork and they were fine. But one of the things that I started doing, my chiropractor actually encouraged me to take a closer look at my diet, and to also begin to incorporate yoga. So now I'm a huge fan of yoga and Pilates, can't live without it. But fish oil, turmeric, like that's all in my cabinet. Peppermint, I've become that person who is now drinking tea, whether it's peppermint tea, just trying to find ways to recenter myself and be mindful of what I'm putting in my body, but also trying to incorporate some not only physical, exercise and activity, but I'm going to say the mental and spiritual aspect too.
Good.
So what's your relationship, I guess, with a patient's primary care physician? Do you try to work hand in hand? Do you all have to consult one another when you have a patient who's coming to you for services?
Um, not not
Not really.
necessarily,
Not necessarily.
not so much.
Okay.
Be very honest with you. Most of my patients come to me
Mhm.
because they feel that they're not being listened to by their primary care physician, or
Okay.
they feel that they went to their primary care and they were like trying to explain what was going on and they were prescribed a medication. Maybe they don't want to be on a medication, or
Mhm.
they're not giving options or alternatives. And I'm not bashing primary care, because I have friends that are primary care, and now that I understand what they go through, they're
Mhm.
in the insurance network, so they're seeing 20 to 35 patients a day.
Yeah.
And you can imagine, if you see that many people in a day, you only got 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 15 minutes to figure out what is going on with you. And that's
Mhm.
not a lot. And a
Yeah.
lot of times it's like, okay, if the things they're doing don't work, they refer you to a specialist. This is how people end up in the endocrinologist and the neurologist and all that. But even in that world, a lot of times they are more into disease care. So if there is something that is severe, then yes, they're excellent at that. But at the end of the day, the solutions aren't necessarily being given that, hey, here's another option. So I necessarily don't really communicate with a lot of people's primary care, and
Okay.
they don't, but I respect what they do. But again, the people are seeing us because they're not getting the answers. They're not getting better. They're just not getting it.
Mhm.
And, obviously that's just the way it is. So to me, I necessarily don't consider myself, although we are classified as primary care providers in the state of Arizona, I don't necessarily see myself as primary care in that way.
Okay.
Because for me, my journey into where I am now has been kind of long to get, but I love to say what we do is more performance medicine than disease medicine.
Okay.
Because, you kind of asked me before we came in the show, like, hey, who comes to see you? And a lot of
Yeah.
times I get people, to put it very simply, people come to me when they want to feel better. And
Mhm.
that could be being in less pain,
Mhm.
losing weight, having more energy, having better sex drive, being more intellectually, more optimized so they can perform better at their careers. And it's one of those things. It's, why are you here? I'm tired. I don't feel good. I got to cut it. I'm having,
Mhm.
diarrhea or constipation, right? Or I can't lose weight. Like, that's the biggest one. Like, I'm working out, eating healthy, doing all the things I did in my 20s and 30s. I keep gaining weight. What is going on?
Mhm.
And so, but we find is, I say that, but half the time I do end up in the disease medicine primary care thing, because maybe the reason you can't lose weight is because you have an autoimmune thyroid condition. Maybe the reason you have abdominal issues because, oh my God, you got gallstones,
Mhm.
or there's some type of gut inflammation, or you've got a gut bacteria or gut pathogen. So we find these things. And again, this goes back to what I talked about, finding that barrier to you feeling better. And that's where we start from. Then we get to do all the fancy stuff, right? But the
Mhm.
beginning is figuring out what's wrong with you and what we can do to help you. So that being said, unfortunately, I don't think we have, for the most part, we don't have a lot of times, primary care, I think they're like, oh, why'd you go there? And
Mhm.
I've had patients come in and said, my primary care doc said, don't listen to this, and this is
Mhm.
wrong. And that's fine, because they're not trained in what we do.
Mhm.
So, but we're kind of trained in what they do. So it's kind of like, okay, you take it for what it
Right.
is.
Right.
Mhm.
So then, for the consultation, you spend, I would say, you would have to spend an extensive amount of time in comparison, obviously, to a
Mhm.
primary care physician who's within the insurance network and has to, like,
Yeah.
go
Mhm.
from room to room.
Yeah.
So what would a consultation look like if I were coming to you? Because I will tell you, um if I were coming in because I'm tired, I've gained weight, because these are actually some of my symptoms. I've
Mhm.
gained weight, not sleeping well.
Mhm.
um Not that I want you to diagnose me here
Mhm.
on the podcast, but what would a consultation look like? Because I'd like the viewers to kind of get an idea of what they should expect, because you're right. A lot of times patients don't have don't feel heard
Mhm.
by their physician, or either haven't, I guess, developed the
Mhm.
relationship where they even feel comfortable with asking questions,
Mhm.
without, being made to feel as if they're, not intelligent or lack, the
Mhm.
knowledge base.
Right.
Um, so what does a consultation look like, and how do you kind of develop the relationship with your patient so that they do obviously feel comfortable with expressing what their issues are and what type
Right.
of help they're looking for?
Right. And that's a great question. One of the things I do is I spend a lot of time, creating our intake forms. And there's paperwork we send to the patient digitally. And it's a ton of questions.
Mhm.
And this is my way of starting to get to know a person, right? So there'll be questions about, hey, number one, what brings you in?
Mhm.
What medical history do you have? Have you been diagnosed with any significant medical conditions in the past? What's your family history, right? Are you coming from a family that has a lot of high blood pressure or diabetes or any autoimmune conditions, right? Things that can have a good genetic component, right? Or high cholesterol. So then we're going to talk about that. All right, what are you taking currently? What medications are you taking? What supplements are you taking, right? And then we'll get into a little bit of how you're eating.
Mhm.
How many times a day are you eating vegetables? Are you eating complex carbohydrates? How many times a week are you eating out? Are you eating fast food? Are you drinking sodas and all these things, right? Because I need to know where you are.
Right.
Then we get to the detailed questions. Are you having issues with sleep? Are you tired? Are you losing hair? These obviously we won't go through the whole
Mhm.
list here.
Right.
Do you have dry skin? Are you constipated? Do you have low libido? Do you have joint pain? Are you having abnormal menstrual cycles for our female patients, right? For our males, are you having erectile dysfunction or low libido? Obviously, that can go male and female, right? And
Mhm.
so, what I'm trying to do before I even see the person is figure out, okay, why are you here? What's going on?
Right.
Because now you kind of have a sense of what we want to talk about. What are the main things bothering you, right? And
Mhm.
so when the patient does come in, I've already had time to look over their intake forms and get some information of who they are on a medical sense.
Mhm.
So when the person comes in, I'm going to ask a lot, especially in the things they said yes to in the forms. We're going to really dive into that. Okay, you're feeling tired. Okay. Okay, so you're feeling tired. Is there a particular time? I'm just going to focus on fatigue, right? And
Mhm.
this is great because I can give you a sense of what it's like when a person comes to see
Yeah.
me. Let's say fatigue is your primary thing. Let's get into this. Okay, so you're feeling tired. How long has this been going on? When did you start noticing that you start feeling tired?
Mhm.
They'll say, okay, maybe 2 months ago, maybe 2 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, right? Okay,
Mhm.
that's great. Is there a particular time of day you feel more tired? Is it when you first wake up in the morning? Is it in the afternoons? Is it at night? Is it after you eat? Because then that tells me I can already start trying to differentiate on certain times of day have fatigue that are associated with other things. For example, if you're having a lot of fatigue in the afternoons, hormones, cortisol, stress.
Mhm.
So now, okay, now we know you're tired and it's been going on for a while. Okay, let's start with the most obvious thing. How's your sleep? How many hours a night are you getting to sleep? Are you having difficulty falling asleep? Are you having difficulty staying asleep? Are you waking up during the night? When you wake up in the morning, how do you feel? Are you struggling to get out of bed in the morning, right? All right. So now you're tired, you're not sleeping. How's it affecting you during the day? Are you having issues with memory, focus, concentration, or brain fog? Okay. Now, if a person's tired, they're not getting sleep, they can't focus. Are you gaining weight? Because if you're not sleeping well and you're tired, are you working out? Are you going to the gym? Are you able to, go hiking or do something that's active? And so now, just from that question of feeling tired, we're into your sleep.
Mhm.
We're gonna get into your diet, right? Are you eating a crappy diet? We're gonna get into your energy levels. We're getting into your joint pain, muscle ache. Are you exercising? Your focus and concentration. And that's just off of one question: are you tired? And so to kind of wrap that up, by the time we get through all that in your medical history, normally our new patient visits last about 45 minutes. And by
Okay.
the time you walk out of there, I have a very good sense of what's going on with you. And then we get into, do we need lab work or imaging so we can confirm that? So that's the process.
Wow. And I don't think now there is not anyone who could tell me that when going to see a primary care physician that they get to spend 45 minutes. It's more
Mhm.
like 5,
Mhm.
10. And I will tell you, I love my primary care physician. Um, but we don't spend that much time together. Fortunately, I have her cell phone number. I can call her or reach out to her.
Yeah.
But I think that being able to really sit down and you being able to assess a patient and then take the time to go through that's very, very important. And I wish that all forms of medical doctors would have that type of time to spend with patients, because I don't know, I just think it'll be more beneficial versus
Yeah. But
that.
it's our healthcare system with the insurance model. It's like you think about this, how many people have, Blue Cross Blue Shield, use them as an example for we're talking hundreds of thousands, millions,
Yeah,
and there's only so many doctors,
right.
and to be able to get you in, you're not feeling well, to say, hey, this is what I need you to do. I
Mhm.
mean, their hands are tied in many ways. So again, I will never knock what they do. They're very much up against, they're the most stressed out doctors I know.
Mhm.
And it's not easy to do that, but that's where we come into play because we have the ability to spend more time with our patients. But
Mhm.
the downside to that for many people is that we're not in the insurance. It's the good thing and the bad thing. We're not in the insurance model, but also we're not in the insurance model because now we're cash pay. And
Right.
so where your copay may be 25, $30, depending on your insurance to go see the primary care, I'm significantly more than that.
Mhm.
But that's just the nature of it. And I wish it was another way to do it, but for now, it's kind of, it is what it is for now.
Well, what's important, at least what I think is important, is that you are helping people versus um, having individuals continue in this kind of rat race or cycle, you know what I mean, of going back and forth to the doctor, and hopefully with working with you, they this isn't something that has to be long term in terms of they will
Mhm.
with your guidance um have the proper care to eventually heal themselves
Right.
and become healthier. So I think that's what's most important. So
Yeah, and I kind of want to circle back to the whole it is what it is thing. And that may have
Mhm.
sounded a little bit cold. And what I meant by that is that not so much that I'm like, hey, this is what I call it. It is what it is.
Mhm.
It's more so that as of now, and I, as a medical student, I went to DC and we had our federal legislator initiative at DC Fly, where
Mhm.
our students go and some of our doctors go out there. And one of the things that we try to talk, and we were at the office of a lot of senators and representatives, like, hey, we think naturopathic medicine should be covered at least by Medicare, Medicaid,
Mhm.
because at the end of the day, the people who need us the most can't afford it.
Right.
Their insurance doesn't cover it, and we're just not credentialed. Insurance just doesn't cover our services, right?
Mhm.
There are a few insurance providers that the people can get like a reimbursement, but it's not like it's getting paid for, right? So with
Right.
that being said, I would implore the people listening to talk to your politicians, your representatives, and say, hey, how can we get this to be covered by insurance? Because even if I can't spend 45 minutes with you, there are
Mhm.
doctors out there that would love to be able to be in that network and say, hey, now I can see the people that need us,
Mhm.
that can't afford it. Because if you're on Medicare, Medicaid, you're not dropping $400 to see a natural. You can't,
Right.
and now we're stuck. So I just hope that there's something that we can, in the future, things will be a little bit better for the people who can't afford it. So.
Now let me ask you this, since we didn't even talk about what's the name of your practice?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Innovative wellness, spelled with the ENO,
Mhm.
innovative. So ENOVATIV, Innovative Wellness Center. We are here in Phoenix, Arizona.
And so now here's another question, just a little slight detour. I don't know what the percentage is of Black men in the medical field. I know what the percentage of Black men in education, because
Yeah.
that's my profession. What is the percentage of Black men in the medical field? And then your particular area of medicine. Do you-
Man, I wish I had those numbers, but it's damn small. I can tell you that. Um, whatever that number is,
It's
I'm
very small.
yeah, if it's not single digits, I don't know if it's higher than 10%, and that's very unfortunate. That's
Mhm.
talk about that in a second, some things I want to do in the future. But I do know that it's very small. I do
Mhm.
know you have to put it in perspective of this. Physicians in general make about 1% of the population,
Right.
the entire population, right? Now that 1%, again, this is where I would love to. We have Google at our fingertips, but I'm not going to stop and Google it. But I'm going to put the numbers out there and probably say somewhere in the 2 to 5% range. And then if you break that down into my field, naturopathic medicine, I will tell you that I was the only Black male in my graduating class.
Mm.
The class before me, 0.
Wow.
The class after me, I think 1. The class after that, I think 1. So it's very small. And so now you think the numbers are really small there. Now you get into what I do, because
Mhm.
I do a lot of, again, this whole performance medicine. So I'm dealing with a lot of hormones and peptide therapy, and a lot of cellular medicine and mitochondrial health, and a lot of anti-aging longevity medicine. Don't worry about me saying these. It probably sounds like I'm speaking
Okay.
Chinese right now, but don't
Yes.
worry. It's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
There is, you remember Panera Bread, the secret menu?
Yeah.
I'm in the secret menu of medicine. We're out here reversing aging and making people feel younger and look younger. And I just wish more people knew about it. And
I
that's,
need to be your patient
oh
then.
man, we are rocking out here.
See, that's why I need to come to
Uh,
Phoenix.
dude, I have no problem saying that I just turned 48 in August, and I have never felt better in my entire
Oh,
life.
that's right. Your birthday is August. You're a Virgo, right?
Yes, I
I
am.
remember.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And so that being said, it's small. And I go to these conferences, and it's maybe 3 of us.
Mm,
A lot of times I'm the only one. I've been
yeah.
where I'm a speaker. I've spoken at conferences, and I'm the only one. And that's unfortunate. That's just the way it is for now, but I'm hoping to make a difference with that. And one of the things that I want to do as my practice grows and I get further along is, and I definitely will be reaching out to you, and I know a few other people who know how to do this, is that I want to get into the nonprofit realm where I can maybe have scholarships or funding to send men and women of color into med school and naturopathic medical school, and maybe things postgraduate, because we're underrepresented.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. You are. Because let me tell you, because I got the information for you.
okay.
So, in the breakdown with gender, 72% are women.
Mhm.
Okay. 28% are men.
Now
As far,
this is doctors overall,
I
or
know this is naturopathic
okay,
doctors.
okay.
3.5% are Black.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yep.
So,
Oof. Yeah, that's not a lot. Not at all.
no, not a lot at all. Um, so we definitely need to do more to, I think, get the word out about going into the field. But then, of course, the financial barriers, that's where funding, scholarships would come into play.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, let me tell you something here. And this is like, it's so funny because I look at my patient base and I look at my demographics, and to be very honest with you, I would dare to say that 90+% of my patients are not, they're not Black. Most
yeah.
of my patients are Latino and white.
Mhm.
We have a few, and I've been trying to figure out why, and some of the things I think about is maybe there's just a general distrust of the medical system, because there are proven research studies. We can go back a day, talk to Tuskegee.
Right.
We can talk about some of the experiments that were done in the early medical schools before Tuskegee, where Black men and women were test patients, so they just didn't know it.
Right.
And so I think historically we have reasons to distrust the medical system. Now you want to push it forward, and there are current studies that show that Black people, Black women in pain, are not treated with the same level of care as other races. This is fact. This is fact.
Yeah.
And we're less likely to, well, I don't think anyone should be really prescribed a pain medication if they have to, but we are less likely to be prescribed a pain medication. What in the actual hell? And the fact that potentially the doctors are not listening to people of color when they come in and they say, I don't feel good. I don't feel well. And it's just like, okay. And they're literally, these studies came out and said they think we have a higher tolerance for pain. What? And I remember reading these studies towards the end of my med school career, my first year out, and it just makes you angry as a physician. And so I do understand there's barriers. Barriers are a big word for me in my field, in my practice. There are barriers to why we don't have more men and women of color coming to see us, right? And also, while I'm there, I think a lot of times we, especially Black men, we don't go to the doctor.
No.
Man, we don't go to the doctor unless by the time they come, we so far gone. It's like, man, you should have been here 5 years ago.
Exactly.
And I don't know if that's a pride thing or if
Talk
it's like
about that.
the things we talked about, but I just really wish I had more Black men and women in my practice, because I would love to help more of us. But unfortunately, I have not figured that out. That is one solution, one problem I don't really have solutions for just yet, but I'm working on it.
You know what? As someone, I pride myself in going to the doctor and making sure that I, get checked out for any and everything to the extent possible. There is something that some people don't understand about me, but I make it a point that every doctor that I have, whether it's a dentist, orthodontist, my primary care physician, be perfectly honest with you, I look for a Black physician. And the reason being is because I want somebody who looks like me, to be my doctor. I think that they're going to be more inclined to listen to me, because I have had doctors of other races if I was referred to a specialist or something of that nature. And to be honest with you, I have felt the difference in terms of the treatment and level of care. So I really do wish that we overall had more Black men and women going into the medical profession, because I'm not going to say that I have a lack of trust of anyone who doesn't look like me being my, doctor, but I certainly do believe that my concerns are taken a little bit more seriously, you know what I mean, in comparison to what I've experienced by doctors of other races.
Yeah, and I think maybe the word we may be looking for is empathy. Is
Okay. Yes,
understanding that. And I will tell you this, and I have no problem saying this: if you're a physician, a nurse practitioner, PA, if you are not treating that person across from you, no matter what color they are, what gender they are, what their sexual preference is, if you're not treating them the same, you need to ask yourself, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Because to me, that's a problem, and that's a serious problem.
Yep.
So Yeah, I understand that, and I wish I had more answers to that, but I do know that I think as doctors, as healthcare providers, we need to check ourselves,
Mm,
and make sure that we're treating all our patients fairly and with compassion and care and listening intently. So I'll kind of leave it at that.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Um, so tell us again if individuals are in the Phoenix, Arizona area,
Mhm.
or even you never know, you may have somebody who may want to come and fly out to to
Yeah.
see you and
Mhm.
become a patient. How would they get in contact with you? And if you could direct us to your website or where we can find you, get more
Okay.
information.
I'm gonna do that, but
Okay.
I need to get on the soapbox one more time. I know
Oh,
it's your
okay.
podcast. I know it's your
Okay.
podcast, but this is something that I wanted to.
Okay.
I know that look. I've been seeing that look since 1996, right there. So here's the thing. I want to talk about this concept really quick because I know we talked about it a little bit in the beginning and before we got on.
Mhm.
I'm going to make this quick and concise, but I really want people to understand a little bit more about inflammation. And
Okay,
not
I'm
just
sorry.
and no,
You're
it's
right.
okay. And not just inflammation. I'm going to, for those who don't know about this, I'm going to introduce a concept, talk about it, and talk about why it's so important, what you can do about it. So the concept is there's inflammation. Okay, we know it's swelling and pain and all that, but the concept I want to introduce is get you to be familiar with what's called metabolic inflammation or meta-inflammation, also known as inflammation or inflammation that ages you. So this metabolic inflammation is this chronic low-grade inflammation. It's inflammation they may not necessarily find in your lab work. It's there. This inflammation is caused by a few things.
Mhm.
And these are the things that most people think like, wow, why do I feel this way? When you pull the string, it's caused by obesity. It's caused by not exercising, sedentary behavior. It can be caused by excessive exercising. It's caused by stress. It's caused by having an inflammatory diet. It's caused by sometimes medications can cause it, but at the end of the day, it's inflammation that doesn't go away. It's there and it's breaking you down and it's aging you. Now, what are the symptoms of that? Now, they're the overt symptoms. That's going to be your fatigue and your bloating and your joint pain, and your muscle ache and your brain fog, all these things. But deep down, there is a different level down that this inflammation has been shown to cause iron deficiency anemia. It makes people anemic. It can affect your hormones. It can cause nerve pain. So people that have a neuropathy, the pins and needles sensation, the numbing in the hands and feet. It can cause obesity. It can cause ability to your we call our growth factors in the brain. So it affects your ability to think clearly. And this happens. And sometimes a lot of times this is the classic, something's wrong with me. I go to the doctor. They don't have any answers. They said, why don't you eat better and you work out? We're
Mhm.
missing the point. Now, how do we diagnose it? There's other lab tests that we run that are not what your traditional doctor would run. So these deeper tests will tell me if there's an issue with this metabolic inflammation. And some of them you can find if you know how to interpret the normal labs, you can find it. Now, what do you do about it? There's 3 steps to it. One is you do a lifestyle changes. So you're not sleeping. Why? If you're eating a crappy diet, okay, let's make some changes there. You don't have to go in your pantry and your fridge and throw everything out, but let's start step by step. Now, again, I'll drop a little gem on you right here. One of the things that causes inflammation that people don't even think about is some of the oils we use. Here's your big four: canola, sunflower, safflower. Oh man, is it 3? Vegetable oil. We'll call it vegetable oils, right? So here's the problem with vegetable. It sounds healthy. It's a vegetable. It's oil. The problem with vegetable oils, when they are heated to temperature,
Mhm.
their structure changes, and they actually put out more what's called omega-9, omega-2, excessive omega-6, omega-6. It's kind of what the oils turn to, right?
Mhm.
And so omega-6 and omega-9 in excess are inflammatory. So now you're eating what you think is a healthy product. Oh, it's a vegan potato chip and it's a healthy chip. And you look at it, it's cooked in an oil that makes that inflammatory. That's not good.
Mhm.
Right. And so, sorry, I just sidebar right there. And that's something I
No.
always, because I had to, for me, I mean, I love chips. I love chips with a passion, with a passion. I'm like, I can't keep doing this. It's about toxicity adultery. I'm not saying you can
Mhm.
have a little bit, but I can't be eating chips every day.
Right.
I had to stop that full slow. I
But
was eating them every day. So sorry, go ahead.
no, 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 go.
So now, okay, once you know what the root cause is, how it's affecting you, what can you change about it, right? So obviously you want to change the way you eat. Stress, if I didn't say stress, another big cause of metabolic inflammation, finding stress relief techniques that work. Could be meditation, could be journaling, could be prayer, could be spending time with your family. Just something you find the thing that helps you relieve stress, right? It could be acupuncture. It's all the different things. There is no perfect answer. Find what works for you. Talked about the diet stuff. And now what can you do? Now, the great things for metabolic inflammation is going to be your fish oils, your turmerics, going to be all these natural anti-inflammatory things. And then there's some different complex medical things that we do here with peptides and hormone therapy. And I will spend another hour talking about that, so I'll let it go. But at the end of the day, is just knowing that inflammation to me, is the true silent killer of people and our people, because we just don't go after it. We don't fix it. And now this inflammation, if left unchecked, can lead to autoimmune conditions, can lead to cancerous processes, can lead to heart disease and diabetes and all these things. So again, I implore people to not ignore inflammation and do not ignore how you feel, because it could be something there that you need to address. So I'm off my soapbox. There was
No, and
something there from the
I'm glad that you got on that soapbox. No, honestly. So thank you for that, for circling back to that. And maybe we'll have to talk about inflammation in more detail, which means that you'll have to come back and be my guest on the podcast. And speaking of podcasts, we didn't mention that you also are a podcast host as well.
All right.
Wanna
And I just did, look, I just broke podcast cardinal rule number one. I did not answer the question that you asked me. So let me circle back to your question here. So the website is innovativewellness.com. So that's ENOVATIV wellness.com. We're located in Phoenix, Arizona, in the Biltmore area. Me personally, I can be found on Instagram at Dr. Jones _Dr. Jones, all spelled out. Facebook, I will admit, I'm the worst Facebooker in the history of Facebook. I used to be all about Facebook. Now it's like you got to drag me on the Facebook to post anything. But we do have a Facebook page for the practice. I think it's under Innovative Wellness. That's how much I don't go on there. And last but not least, I do have a podcast. It is the Dr. Jones Optimization Academy. It can be found on Spotify and Apple and iTunes and YouTube. Just me talking to a lot of other doctors and healthcare professionals about the things that I love and have an interest in, and hopefully we're educating people. What else? There's a Twitter. I just got a Twitter. I'm bad on Twitter too. I think it's under Innovative Wellness. Yeah, we in these streets, Aginah. We in these streets.
Well, I am happy that you took time out of your busy day to spend with me. And so congratulations to you, though. I just want to say that to you. It's always great to see people that I grew up with now adulting and doing great things, especially when you are saving lives. So I'm going to have to I'm going to put you on the spot, though, because as a UIC Black alum, I'm going to need you to come back to UIC and talk to some of our students, because they need to see what has been produced. So often our students in particular, they don't get a chance to see themselves. And so I think as alums, we owe it to our students to come back and let them see, all of the great things that we're doing. So,
oh man, say less.
okay.
I am there. I will come back for sure.
I got to wear my my higher ed hat too, even though we're on this podcast. But so you have agreed to come back and join me at some point. So thank you very much for being my guest today and giving us a wealth of information. I really appreciate it. It's very informative. And so for those of you in the viewing audience, please make sure that you share this episode with family member or friend. And of course, if you are in the Phoenix area, make sure you visit Dr. Jones. So until next time, please continue to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. make sure you visit my website at www.lightituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @lightituppodcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.